Now, if you've ever set big financial goals as a business owner and then really struggled to achieve them, here's why, and here's something really simple that you can do about it, okay? So I used to be just only budgeting in a spreadsheet, and you know what? I love a spreadsheet and I love to get into it, but still, even though I absolutely do love it, and you know, I do love all those calculations and things like that, I still struggle to sometimes find the time to put aside the time to actually get into the spreadsheet as well as do all the other things. So I can only imagine that other people who aren't so spreadsheet savvy, who don't really enjoy it, also don't find the time to get into the spreadsheet, or they just have so many other pressures, right? You're running a business. So if you've got your clinic, you've got a practice, you've got staff, you've got decisions to make, you've got patients coming in, perhaps you're still doing some of that yourself as well, office admin, everyone's asking you questions. When do you find the time to sit down and go, right, am I on track for all my financial goals, right? So you've got a lot of other pressures and you've got to constantly keep up. You've got to be making a lot of decisions all the time, go, go, go. So sometimes these money issues get put to the side, or they get avoided, or they get like handed to someone else who's maybe not as responsible with them. And we don't end up hitting those financial goals. You get a few months in, you think, oh my gosh, I'm not on track. Or you get a few more months in, you think, I'm never going to get there. And you've hit these you want these big goals to be hit, right? And, you know, some of the problems I see really is that people don't have a clear system, or they have a system like a budget in a spreadsheet that's, you know, really complex, that, you know, baffles them, or they don't want to get into it. They don't have time to get into it. But by the time they even find where the spreadsheet is, you know, they're back on, you know, answering questions and calls are coming through, or they don't really know how they're going to get to that goal. Like they don't have a clear plan on the how. And so it feels so far off, like they've put a figure out there, but when it's got down to it, it's like how. So they're just operating at the same level. And so if we're operating at the same level, we're never going to get there. Also, other problems I see is we're operating from the same person. So what I mean by that is that you've always avoided money and now you're still avoiding the money. Like you've got your practice set up and now you're still avoiding it, right? Or you've always, you know, ignored that sort of thing. But you put a few things in place. Maybe you've got a bookkeeper, maybe you've got an accountant, but still you're not hitting those big goals because, I mean, they're making sure you're compliant and that all your things are taken care of and everything's organized, but it's up to you, or, you know, to have a CFO on the team to help you really hit those goals, right? Or you think, you know what, it's just going to work itself out. It always does. It kind of works itself out. And when it doesn't, you're like, oh, great, I'm going to set another goal next year. Somehow I'll make this happen. Right? So we don't want that for you. And so this is a really simple thing that I did, that I put in place, that really helped me, and it helps a lot of my clients too. So I definitely wanted to share it with you. And the simple shift that I made was I started to do things a little bit differently, which opened up an easier way to do it. So I used to use a spreadsheet, as I said, like, you know, all my budgets were in spreadsheets. I still use spreadsheets. I'm not saying that I don't use them. However, I found a simpler way. I found a way that works for me. And I also had to put in place a few things. So it's kind of like I was using a very complex system, and sometimes I was avoiding going into it. Right? Sometimes I didn't want to go into it because it was just like too complex. It's like you're going to the gym and, you know, you've got this new personal trainer, and that personal trainer is giving you like the most complex type of gym training. I had this once, like I hired this personal trainer and he was like, oh, I'm actually like a personal coach. And I'm like, I don't know what the difference between the coach or the trainer is. I just want someone to help me, and I don't even understand what all of this equipment is at the gym, right? Like it was like my first time in a gym, and I didn't really know how to use any of it, and I wanted to use it. And he gave me the most complicated workout that I couldn't work out, didn't understand what he was saying. I was constantly asking questions, and even when I asked the questions, I still didn't really understand how or what I was supposed to be doing. I needed it simpler. I needed a simpler approach. So what happened? I ended up not doing any of it because it was too complex. He wasn't there for me to ask all the questions. And when I did ask the questions, I didn't seem to gel, right? So it was too complex for me. So I ended up going and doing something completely different. I actually sort of went off on a tangent there, and then now I don't even go to the gym. I just do it all myself, right? So, but I learned some skills. What I'm saying is it can get too complex, so we avoid it, right? So what I did is I made it really simple for myself not to avoid. I made it simple for myself to keep on track. And how I made it simple for myself to do that in the business and in my personal life is that I set up separate accounts for each thing. And I'm not talking about just a personal account and a business account. I'm talking about you've got your business, you've got staff, you've got rent, you've got operational type costs, right, that you need to pay. You've got tax that you need to pay, right? We don't want to get worried about a big tax bill coming up, and we also don't want to not put aside tax. So, you know, we're going to have to put aside tax. You're also there as the owner, and you build a business for a reason, to make money and do the thing that you love in this world, which means that you also have got to pay yourself. And sometimes people forget that, like they're just taking what's left over, or no, you're not a leftover thought. Like, you're not an afterthought. You didn't come into your own business to earn less than what you did at, you know, one of your jobs. You came into your business to get paid really well and compensated well for what you do. So, you know, having an account for that as well, having an account for your owner's pay, you know, having an account for your profits, which goes into that, right? Having an account for a bit of a cash buffer for the business. So if you have a slow month, business is business, right? So sometimes we're going to have ups and sometimes we're going to have downs, and that is business. You know, often people come to me and they say, oh, you know, I just want to get, you know, it's steady. Oh, I need to have that steady. The nature of business is that it will have peaks and troughs. It will have ups and downs. That is the nature of business. And so what we've got to do is have a really robust system around that. And part of that is having a little cash account or a freedom account, or some people might call it an emergency account, to the side that you're not touching on a daily basis, like that is to the side, not to buy a big purchase, but to continue the business if something happens, right? Say if you have a slow couple of months, that you still get paid, you can still keep the lights on. So you want to get that account there as well. So it's having accounts set up separately. So all of a sudden, instead of opening a spreadsheet, you're just opening up your bank accounts, and you can see where things are at, like just at a glance you can see where things are at, right? But not only that, in your personal side, you also want that too, right? Now this is where it gets tricky, because, you know, everyone wants to look successful, and perhaps you've had, social conditioning where, you know, you want to keep up with everyone, you want to be the same as what you've always, so maybe you're spending a lot, you might be spending a lot, or you might not be spending a lot, but you might have something come up in your life where you're like, oh, you know, there's a lot of people around you who are spending a lot, and you feel like you want to spend a lot too. By setting up these separate accounts, like you might have an account set up for your savings, you might have an account set up specifically for a holiday that you're going on, right? You might have an account set up, I strongly suggest you do have one set up for your investments, right? And some for your normal operational, regular expenses that you have in your day-to-day life, right? Like, you know, accommodation, whatever your rent or your mortgage, your electricity, gas, all of that sort of water, that sort of normal expenses that you have, internet and stuff. And then you have an account for like your spending, your everyday spending. So like, you know, your groceries, your petrol or transport, whatever, you know, Ubers, trains, buses, whatever you do. And, you know, you have accounts set up for, you know, your personal, like, just have some fun, have a bit of fun. Now I make sure that I've got percentages to all of these accounts in my business set up so that I am transferring, not daily, but I'm transferring those percentages, and I'm transferring those percentages in my personal life. Now some of them are automated, right? So if you can do that, automate it, great, fantastic. Some people don't like to automate it. They like to do it. They like to see the transfer happening, which is brilliant too. But to make sure the transfers happen, because then at that glance you can see in that account. And now this is where it gets a little tricky, because you're going to be, you know, faced with opportunities. You're going to be faced with things where perhaps you don't have enough in that account where you would use that money from, and you really want to go into the other account, or you really want to go into the other, and that's where you need to stand still and take a moment and take a breath and know that where you're at is where you're at, and that if you don't have the money in that account, it's not about moving money around and shuffling money around. It's about saying no. It's about saying no, not right now, maybe later, or finding a different way. But it's not about dipping into those accounts, right? Because those accounts are being set up for a reason for you. So it's for your future, for your financial ability to move through this. Now, if you've got those big goals, then you have to like having these accounts set up is going to really help you get there faster, right? The reason why it's going to help you get there faster is because you're going to make less wrong decisions, because you can see where things are at. You're going to be okay financially because you're going to be transferring the money to the proper account. So you're not going to get to the end of the year and go, oh my gosh, I've got a massive tax bill, because you've already accounted for that, right? You're also not going to get to the end of the year and think, oh my gosh, I haven't got paid, because you're going to account for that, right? You're going to make sure that you're getting paid properly, right? And that takes out a whole lot of thinking required around those financial goals, right? So once we've got that looked after and we're setting some time aside, I like to call it a money date, to be able to look at it, to be able to review it, to be able to do the transfers. You don't want to be doing them every single week, but you may set them up and then be monitoring them, or you may just do the transfers a couple of times a month or monthly, whatever works for you. But it's about knowing this at a glance. So it takes that off the brain, right? It takes that little bit level of complexity off the brain. You're no longer scrambling in a spreadsheet. You're no longer thinking, doing mental maths in your head. You no longer got everything plonked in the one account thinking I'm okay when really you're not. You know exactly where you're at. And that way then when you're looking at your financial goals, you can know where you're at, and you can start to make some really informed decisions about how much you can spend on perhaps more marketing or more staff or a larger clinic or a second location or whatever it is for you, because you're actually now making sure those bits of money are going towards those bigger financial goals on your longer term vision plans, right? Hopefully this is all making sense. If you want to get a little bit of a structure for the accounts that I would recommend having for your business and your personal, just drop a little message in the comments or message me privately, and I'm more than happy to send you that.